However, Griffin have built themselves a very different comp this time around. This is much more standard. This will have the ability to play things out in the late game, has some good bridges in the early to mid game as well, with Lissandra being able to hold onto her lane pretty effectively and the Olaf being able to jungle relatively fast. So
I must admit I was squinting to
see whether or not it's going to be Khan getting that attention as well. I mean, in theory, both of these junglers can get things done pretty early on. And top lane does look very, very volatile, always between these two players, which is why it's so cool. They have such a good relationship. We're going to get into it, though. Here we are, game number 2, Griffin versus SKT.
Don't you judge me for my mistakes. Take enough my chance I can take.
Still, so many Griffin fans here in the stadium.
We actually got a chant this time, Atlas.
Yeah, we did. We got a second
one.
chant. Thank goodness. SKT fans have been holding that one in for about an hour. So that's why this entire stadium just erupted.
And we've all been holding it in ever since we saw SKT Griffin, because I think every caster became a bias caster. They want to see 5 games between SKT and Griffin. Game number 1 was some nice table setting, and the quick answer that I called for was, Griffin, bring back the standard. Much more standard a draft in game number 2. Ranged 80 carries for both Teddy and Viper. Now, this time it's an aggressive invading level 1 from Griffin. To be fair, though, they have Olaf Braum. Could you be a better level 1 duo?
Probably not. And the thing for Griffin with the scaling team composition, it feels like a lot of the eggs are going to be in the Viper basket late game. But they're going to have a lot of difficulty stabilizing, I feel, in the early into mid transition against the Lucian.
Well,
and
SKT
the
actually aggressively moving into the jungle. That's going to be a double taunt landing. There from Mata. Tarzan very, very low. Will go down for first one. It goes over to Khan. Mata uses his whole health bar, and it's absolutely fine. 2 kills for SKT.
SKT bring 5, and they get the double kill from it. Akali goes top. Really nice roll of the dice. Pays off, and then some. No items in the first buy, but a kill and assist towards that gunblade for Akali.
And everyone gets to the lane first as well. Getting back to the lane, having the lane prio. We take another look at the replay. Griffin don't know that they're outnumbered. And so the Galio taunt, so powerful early on. Close call there onto Mata, but not quite. And I really like Chovy's discipline. He doesn't flash.
And I really like the surround by SKT. Notice that Akali, seeing the Braum and Olaf, and the early invade, as we get the Nisus already in jumps from Indoor Stadium. The Akali doesn't go top lane. She actually stays around in case there is actually the chance for a 5v4. So they just did their math sums and said 5 is a bigger number than 4. Even Twitch chat knows that. And that means level 1 advantage, SKT.
I also love the communication as well. You saw Teddy walk straight past, share pixels with Viper, and not shoot him at all because they knew that they needed to get that first blood to give themselves even more of that man advantage. It didn't matter what an Ezreal can do at level 1 because it's just not a whole lot against this Lucian. And now SKT off to an incredible start. And I think it's very different to what Griffin did in game number 1 because, yes, they were able to get a very early first blood pre-1 minute, but I think that the snowball implications on Griffin now is much more scary.
And I think we should discuss an S word here, LS, and that S word is scaling, because you were talking about the scaling comp on the side of Griffin. I actually look at how these fights are likely to go, and I say, if Khan presses all his buttons on the Ezreal, he's going to be able to zone out Ezreal. There's actually not that much threat behind it, so I actually think Griffin needs to get going in the early mid-game and might have some scaling issues. Azir, a scaling god in and of himself. Azir's now got a lane against a no-flash Lissandra, as we know. And speaking of Lissandra...
Yeah, Faker's going to come on over. He's only level 4, but he's still got enough damage. Clit's going to help out. And Griffin lose 3 in the first 4 minutes. And
that game's going to be so hard, LS, because now, with Summoners being down, Sword's trying to help, he's teleporting too late, it's all falling apart.
Yeah, everything is just looking very tilty, is the only way that I can actually describe it with Sword's teleport. Chovy finding himself in a really bad position. And what is the mental state of Griffin right now in this game here? As we can see that everything is going right for SKT.
I'm not willing to pull out the tilt word just yet, but let's discuss something that happened. The flash is down on Chovy. He's playing this lane like he has flash. This is not respecting the level 1 that happened, and it's SKT doing what every jungler does in solo queue. Oh, we got a flash, return to the lane. They return to the lane, and definitely Chovy at one point said, I'm gonna die if you don't TP. Sadly, it was disconnected, and by the time the TP did come, they're kind of putting themselves further into that level 1 hole.
Yeah, and that's 2 deaths for Chovy now as well as he returns from base. Teleport was there, so doesn't miss out on too much farm, only down 6 as we go through and have a look at those CS margins. Sword has done okay since heading back towards top side of the map, and bot lane is also even.
And one of the things that I like that Papa mentioned is that SK Telecom, they do have scaling champions on their team composition, and the thing I was alluding to is that if this goes really late, the only scaling champ that can go toe-to-toe against SK Telecom is going to be the Ezreal. But Akali and Azir, they have a lot more fire to work with.
I think Akali goes in the back line and maybe doesn't kill Ezreal, but Ezreal ain't doing damage to other people. Meanwhile, Azir Lucian should be free hitting. So that's why I like SKT as the game goes on. And that's why the level 1 being so calamitous with so many summoners being down. Chovy tries to return to pushing in Azir, because otherwise you get harassed by the extra range on the Azir. Doesn't play to his summoner disadvantage. I have full confidence in Chovy playing this lane with summoners, but the adaptations after level 1 weren't there, and that's where SKT is pounced.
Well, on the bottom side of the map, you were mentioning the Ezreal needing to get ahead. Well, at the moment, he's got Klepto and does have a CS advantage of about 10 as this minion wave gets cleaned up and equalized. So Griffin do have that win condition theoretically in their back pocket. SKT losing a lot as far as frontline is concerned. I feel like Hecarim and Olaf are going to have more backline access given just what those champions do. But I agree with you guys, there's just so much damage potential on this SKT roster as this game goes on. And Faker has taken the lethal tempo, so has a little bit more damage potential with 6 items than you would if you had the Halo Blade.
And one of the things I want to talk about the later stage things, if this dive doesn't end up happening, is Griffin, they don't have a smoke and mirrors team comp this time around. They're going to be forced to team fight against SK Telecom. And when 3 of your champions want to go into SKT, the Ezreal is going to be all by himself.
Oh, that's a single-man taunt, but he gets stunned up. Mata has to flash to get out of the way. Justice Punch to go back in. Mata knows that he is finished, and Viper picks up the first kill for Griffin.
It was so important that Tarzan path bot side to potentially stop the same damn dive that Griffin did in game number 1, and has traditionally done, building up the minion wave. Fortuitous that he had no other camps on the map, so he goes to the Gromp, the only one he had up. That's when Kled was umming and ahhing. You notice he was trying to pull out earlier when Mata went in, and a disconnect between jungle and support. You know, Mata usually, it's Mata Dandy, right, when you're thinking of historic jungle supports. Here, Kled and Mata were on a kind of different page, and that's a bit of a gimme back for Griffin.
And we take a look at the replay here. Kled manages to get the Gromp, doesn't know about Tarzan, and everything just gets turned on its head. In just a few seconds, Predator came in, Mata knew that he was dead, just tried to run off onto the side, said leave my teammates alone.
He was in that awkward spot where if Kled had engaged, regardless of the call, at least he'd have Aftershock if he went in. If he does Justice Punch defensively, he doesn't even get to Aftershock. And yes, he was kind of done all ends up, to use a cricket analogy, as we get to use that once. We've got some Aussies on the cast. Still,
he was certainly pulling the car over and parking at that particular point in time. So, Mata, no harm, no foul. Should still be able to keep themselves in this lane relatively comfortably. Teddy goes back, gets himself a shot, is going for the Blade of the Ruin King build. We saw Def try to popularize the Essence Reaver, 3-item spike being very powerful on the Lucian. Feels like he's more of a late game threat, not where Teddy's going to be heading this particular time around as Lahan's moving into the mid lane, but Faker's just going to glide his way over towards his turret.
It's a coverage roam, Galio's bot lane, but you're not getting a kill on Faker with summoners up and everything available. Top side, which we've ignored the other times, actually been CS for CS, so that's something where Akali can prey upon some melee laners, and Hecarim does take kind of level 9, points into Rampage and towards the Trinity Force to trade back. No Ignite all-in timing because Olaf's been elsewhere, so probably both sides are, you know, content with it being salvaged, and the Akali with the extra gold, actually just gone for Seeker's Arm Guard Rush, but also the Gunblade should be on time as well, thanks to the level 1.
Sort of like getting a Seeker's Arm Guard for free, almost, by having such a great level 1 fight. Teddy throws out the culling, The cuddling.
The cuddling.
Feels a little bit like the cuddling when it
you're
goes straight
behind
into an
his
unbreakable.
illusion especially, it feels like a cuddling.
It's one of the best mistakes I've made, I think.
His name's Teddy. It's an acceptable mistake.
Well, here as we take a look at top lane, not too much plate damage actually being inflicted. Chovy, he's going to get the blue handoff, but he hasn't recalled yet. He does have teleport coming up, though. And so with this blue buff, yes, he can stay around inside of the lane, but he doesn't have the most amount of oomph inside of his punches. And he's even going to take a little bit of damage here by Faker, and maybe he's okay with this, thinking, I'm going to TP anyway.
He's on a recall timing, so desperately trying to get a shove, and Olaf's not there to help him push out mid, so not a lot of great options for Chovy in the mid lane. Stabilized so much with the summon advantage into the secondary gank, so Azir is going to be on point when we hit the mid game with those items. Tarzan once again in position for a counter gank, but this time, even with flash down on Mata, hard to translate into something.
Yeah, you can see SKT playing very defensively. They're not going to move themselves underneath the turret again. Mata learned from his previous mistake. Cloud Drake is going to be the first one. The beginning of the Drakes that aren't as useful. Wouldn't that be how you'd put it, LS?
I would call that a Clown Drake. Probably not the most useful. Although, Hecarim and Olaf are both on the team. So for
damage
the Predator,
scaling, actually.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
this actually
there we
isn't
go.
a Clown Drake. This is
might
Cloud
actually
from Final
just
Fantasy
be a
VII.
cloud. Oh my goodness.
Does it become a crown Drake then? What are we doing here? Is there a name for if it's good? What if the team is the perfect team for a Cloud Drake? I don't know. You're the one with the names, LS. Come on.
Well, Shelly Rivers, speaking of names, is going to be started up here by SKT. Tarzan taking some damage as he's trying to get them off it, but it looks like SKT should be able to have a monopoly of this area. Chovy moving on over, wants to take down
Tarzan.
Faker. It's stolen somehow as Teddy is trying to find the teleport. Gets it! Just before Viper makes his way into the fight, but can Griffin still manage to get the work done? The answer is just a straight up no. The ultimate comes through from Chovy to get one on the back end, but you can see Faker still trying to do damage. Mata is in here with 200 health. He does have a lot of damage available there at this particular level, but Faker should be able to finish this one off. One more auto. Can he get on top of Chovy? Gets it with the final Q.
Big win in the end for SKT. They get more of the kills. Not ideal to lose the Rift Herald, and Tarzan gets to pick it up. But after that, with Viper just offering himself in tribute, cold, no cuddling this time. This is a cuddle of death. Viper thinks he's free to go for a team fight advantage because he can teleport into a team fight, the enemy's not in. Viper sees and knows that Teddy can't cancel it, but it's too long, Viper, what are you doing?
Yeah. And
I
also,
think
I think he was just trying to get out.
Yeah.
Not actually trying to teleport into a fight. Just so happened there was a fight happening. At this point in time, we're seeing this one right now, Sword with a point-blank ultimate to try and get Griffin ahead.
The thing about this is that if Tarzan doesn't get the steal, this is so disastrous for SK Telecom. Teddy is going to get such an experience lead and a gold advantage down into bottom. Then they would have the Herald to boot, and Griffin would be picked off like stranglers after such a heavy commitment.
And fans of 5-game series, you need to see Griffin get something, salvage something from all their trades. Otherwise, you start looking at your watch and be like, ooh, the 3-0 chances go up and up. The fact that they're salvaging and finding some inroads means we're more likely for a longer series, but Griffin needs to start making mistakes like they have been too much today.
Well, Tarzan's looking for Clid. Griffin's still not ready to stop fighting just yet. Couple more autos onto Mata will stun him up. As Clid's fighting on with Tarzan because Faker, he's got the inside track. Another culling comes out. Not the cuddling this time. Lehens wasn't there with the door availability.
Azir's first roaming on Alessandra already tells you everything you need to know about how mid lane has gone. Chovy tries the ult.
He's going to get in there. Clid's going to get locked down, but the heroic entrance comes in. The bouncy castle is erected, and Faker locks down the kill on his opposite number. Makes that a double as the Olaf falls. And the Cloud Drake will be taken.
And Griffin with a really bizarre trade choice. Chovy handshaking that by trying to lock up Clid, but Tarzan was not in close enough proximity. And SK Telecom, they just told Griffin to straighten up.
It's an item lead, it's a roam first lead with the Galio. It's just Chovy just being kind of absent of the game state and making a very poor decision. They're going to lose a lot for this. Teleport's being invested, I believe. Sword, yeah, coming in, the only teleport remaining to try to wave clear. Second defensive teleport around mid lane for the Hecarim in a skill matchup.
And more respite now for the Akali, who I think is building some odd items. But let's have a look at this fight once again.
I mean, it was just knock-up city right there for the Lissandra at the end. But I have to wonder what Chovy's actually thinking with the proximity away from the Olaf as well as Mata having the grand entrance on Galio. Just a very peculiar loss of thought, it seems like. Ends up resulting in a double kill for SKT.
Well, we'll see whether this results in a kill as Khan trying to run away from Sword, and will do so effectively. With the backflip on the Shuriken, I told a lie. Not interesting items at all. It's exactly what an Akali's going to build most of the time as a stopwatch that's broken at this point in the game, though, and that Zhonya's is going to be quite some ways away after the Gunblade. And
we're learning item break points in the Hecarim versus Akali matchup, a bit of pieces from both. Find some way to jam this Rift Herald, but it's not pre-14 minutes, and it's somewhere where SKT can start to reinforce. Here comes Faker, but he'll be late.
Yeah, going to be a little bit late. Ring of Frost does come in as Chovy doesn't get knocked up. Aftershock wears off now. Clid takes a lot of damage, Khan as well, but Faker, he wants the fight. He's got the Emperor's Divide.
Oh, he's not.
No, not going to be able to get in there just yet. Not enough vision available, and they had to deal with Shelly.
I saw a flash up, and I wondered if we would see one of those Azir Sec plays in this finals arena. Griffin have chosen to stay, notice.
Yep.
Griffin are looking a little bit panicked, maybe, going for these very high-risk, high-reward plays, and it's just not panning out. They rotated their bottom lane into mid to try to cover up for the fact that Chovy was on a roam, but they didn't find anything with the play that was pretty committing for a rotation.
The thing that's really scary, guys, is I'm looking at this, and you saw, I don't know whether you guys saw on, you guys at home saw on Twitter that all of the coaches did do their predictions. Most people saying SKT. In fact, there was only one, Hanwha Life, their coach, that predicted it would be Griffin, and Damwon Gaming predicted that they didn't know, basically. Everybody else said SKT, and they said it was going to be because of this jungle mid lane synergy. You guys mentioned it already before game number 1, once again before game number 2, and it's happening again. Now in game number 3, Faker and Clid are demolishing Griffin.
Well, Faker's having his own basketball in this mid lane, just auto-attacking away. He's been under no threat ever since the flash was used at level 1. What a costly level 1 that proved to be for Griffin, and it's really what you focus on, Atlas, because again, the Origin G2 series, where recently Origin had played way better than G2, so go for recency. Well, now everyone laughs and says recency bias. This feels more like recency. Griffin tripping over their shoelaces against Afrika and Gen G, also losing to King Zone. The Dross, that you shook your head and said, well, they didn't have much to play for. They got everything to play for. The Dross have had some merit, but the players let them down in game number 2. And the draft from game 1 had a timer they couldn't respect.
And one of the things here for me is that this is only going to get worse now for Griffin. We're at a stage of the game where they are supposed to be ahead. They're the ones that would like to be in the driver's seat. And so now everything is going to boil down to Viper inside of the team fights on the Ezreal. And can he somehow be a god and manage to survive and weather the storm inside of the team fights? Or is Khan and Faker just going to get easy access to him?
Well, Khan, maybe overextended just a little bit, but actually that is not going to be the case. Just going to trade back some Qs and some autos with Sword, who goes down to half health. Still looking for more, maybe thinks that Tarzan's a little bit closer than he is, because Khan is just ripping him to shreds.
Yeah, the Gunblade is done, so the happy times for trading with an Akali are gone. Sword still has a lot of threat. Here we go.
Yep, Stoppable Onslaught is going to come forward.
I think he missed his
Onslaught of Shadows, in fact, as Khan did manage to backflip to the right point, I believe, in order to get the fear in the right direction. Second charge of the ultimate does come in.
Yeah, the precise interaction, we need to slow it down, but he got away from it. That's the most important thing. That's another all-in attempt that hasn't gone their way. If you're wondering how Griffin was supposed to play, it's an Olaf draft. We always talk about those tempo drafts where you're ahead on the map. Remember, they want to be ahead with teleports, as Chovy is using everything defensively, and all these teleports, this 3 teleport advantage, has actually got Griffin more deaths, not kills.
Exactly, and now Khan is happily 1v2ing underneath this turret. Faker is going 1v1 so easily, and what does that mean, guys? There's just more players on the map for SKT. They'll take down the outer turret bottom lane. They'll even be able to start up the second Cloud Drake. It's going from easy to easier for these guys.
Yeah, and Griffin really look like they're falling apart here as the mid-game transition has commenced. They're going to go for this roam one more time, but the minion wave just evaporates
This is about as all in as he can get as Chovy gets over to the side. The flash does come in from Khan, stays out of vision, but it doesn't matter when it's Alessandro. Baroque entrance comes forward, Khan still alive for so long. Gunblade comes in, and he's in turret range. Khan, the god!
Khan's able to clean it up. Mana in position as well. It's all too obvious. They're getting an all-you-can-eat buffet on Griffin. Every single objective going their way.
You were talking about?
It wasn't
I think
tilt
it's happened
before.
now.
It's definitely tilt now.
Yeah, this is definitely tilt. That looks like a very good Lissandra claw, but just not able to pick up the kill. Look at that. Beautiful max range play. The ultimate came in, but it didn't matter as Khan already got the flash away. He got into proximity for the grand entrance. Chovy missing his skill shot as well.
That was some fancy footwork from Khan, so I don't know whether you necessarily call it missing or just juking.
And some fans at home will ask, why is that obvious? Why did he start moving away from the turret? Why is Olaf still in the lane, melee auto-attacking a turret as the minion wave is dying?
And
only makes sense if the mid lane is roaming. So that's the math that Khan did in his head. That's why he didn't take an extra 300 damage thrown out from an axe or some other spells, or an ignite even from sword where it's still available. That's how he knew to kite back, and kite back to a benefit, as sword is pretty overextended but can ult away.
Yeah, Onslaught of Shadows is going to help him here. Klid's still chasing after the horse. The teleport comes in. No CC necessary because the best CC is death.
I'm gonna hope that he thought he was igniting someone, but these teleports, take less of them. Get some combat summoners in there. The teleports aren't working.
Yeah, he went with F for fire, but he wasn't supposed to, I think.
We don't quite understand what exactly is happening right here with the teleports for Griffin. But Infernal Drake, it's coming up in just over 2.5 minutes now. They're definitely not likely to be in a position to contest that. And so SK Telecom with 2 Cloud Drakes, what's likely to be an Infernal, and the Akali and Azir being absolutely massive at this stage of the game. This was the story in game number 1. Well, what needs to happen for Griffin to make those 8 out of 100 times come true?
They're on 8 this time.
It's not 8,
No.
it's probably about 2.
It's going to be really rough.
Baron Steel, Elder Steel, there you go.
And here's the thing, LS, those 2 are not Griffin doing things. They're kind of asterisk mistake plays from SKT. It feels like any way where Griffin controls their agency, they are probably in a really, really awful spot here. 2 item spikes done on everyone. It's great scaling on the side of SKT. Faker being a bit bold, but he's been able to play, like we said, with his own basketball. He's not sharing with anyone today. If he was in a playground, the kindergarten teacher would not be happy.
He'd definitely be the ball hog.
But everyone else is so strong, and Jarvan, with all of his kills, it's not usually ideal for a Cinderhawk Jarvan to have 4 kills out of the 10. He's gone for the I'm going to turret dive everyone build, and you know what? He'll last a while.
Yeah, he's probably pretty happy to turret dive everyone at this point in time. Right now, he's in the enemy jungle. They've got a heck of a lot of vision down there on the bottom side of the map. Griffin will be able to clear out this control ward most likely as Lehens gets himself into the pit and does so. So Baron Vision is there for Griffin. They're going to make a play. It might need to be around Tarzan and his smites because that has been the best news story here for Griffin so far tonight.
Well, here now with Infernal coming up in just over a minute. Griffin, they're going to try to get as much gold as they possibly can. Really interesting itemization choice coming out here for Viper, though. Maybe he can get to Blade of the Ruin King before that next team fight. But talking about Baron for Griffin, they don't have the best Baron taking potential.
They have good turn off the Baron, but their actual Baron damage is very, very weak. Blade of the Ruin King has capped damage, but it obviously helps the Ezreal have some sort of threat. Everyone else, we're not going to see Hecarim just helicoptering his Qs and auto-attacking. It's not really going to happen, so definitely take your point, LS. And it's also situational tanks with health and redemption and magic resist trying to turn against an item lead SKT with an Azir who literally has nothing to worry about in the backline. His flash and cleanse have never been used this game. Just been having a really happy time, so getting control, face checks, look at this.
Yeah, that's the calling. Cataclysm comes out from Klid there as well as Tarzan does get out. Redemption comes in, keeps him topped up. But that's a horse that can't go anywhere near a Baron right now. Sorry, Lehens that can't go anywhere near a Baron right now, but both of them are going to be backing SKT. Not going to start it up. They're going to play this one pretty cool, calm, and collected because they wanted to use Khan to grab themselves an Infernal Drake.
because of that scaling that we discussed, and especially the gold lead. Just like game number 1, there are no propositions where 5 people run at 5 that Griffin are going to be favored. So if they decide as a team they want Infernal, you say thank you very much, sir, enjoy your Infernal.
Yep.
And the Infernal comes in, and of course another Infernal comes in behind.
I believe that Akali just got almost 2 long swords and a blasting wand in terms of value from the stat amplification as I was looking at her icon at the bottom left. That's really scary off of an Infernal Dragon. Can you imagine what Azir's getting in terms of value?
For fans of a competitive series, I hope you're wrong, is all I'm going to say, because that sounds like a lot less. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that one. Griffin just can't hold a position on the map. You talked about how a Baron Seal, which again is usually a misplay by the team that's ahead, in this case SKT, rather than a great play by Griffin, requires some semblance of control of their red side jungle. They're struggling even getting the first part going. The wards on things like red buff are looking conditional at best.
Well, zombie wards are going to get cleared out here. Justice Punch gets Marta back towards this Baron pit. There is a control ward there, but Flag and Drag will get cleared into the Baron pit. And SKT, they'll play it by the numbers. They are so good at this. It doesn't matter how much pressure this team has on them. Historically, in playoffs matches like this, it's been a while because 2018 wasn't SKT's year. But this squad is so good at keeping level-headed. And I think it has a lot to do with the coaching staff, with people like Coma just standing at the back, able to tell them that it's all going to be okay. And most of the time, guys, it is.
Well, in this game, Griffin, they're trying to posture for vision right now around their red side jungle. But the slightest mistake could mean SK Telecom gets back.
Could this be it? Double knockups are going to come in. The Taunted Land Redemption comes forward. That does a bit of damage. Thankfully, Stand Behind Me exists. And there was someone in place to get Lands out of there. Marta's still looking for it, but Tarzan, he has to flash. Ragnarok, not enough at all. Holds onto that one, but that's a big button now unavailable. And SKT even get themselves into a turret.
At some point, Occam's Razor says that Teddy heard what you said about the cuddling, took exception, and is now just trying to kill everyone. Where they stand. Griffin, though, they're trying to outnumber on Faker.
Yeah, should be able to get a knock up here. Okay. Jumps through the wall with the onslaught of shadows, but heroic entrance comes down. They don't have enough damage. It's Faker. He's even still alive. Stands among 3. Straight up doesn't care. Shifting Sands gets him the shield. He even takes down the horse himself. SKT, they grab a couple of kills, and it just looks like Griffin are too far behind.
And Faker said to take that Trojan horse elsewhere as he raised the Shurima passive and turned the whole fight. And it's looking like SK Telecom, they have their pick of the litter right now. Tarzan's still alive, so they don't want to start the Baron on the off chance something goes disastrous, because that would likely be the only way Griffin has a chance back in. 2 minutes until the Elder.
Now, this is too respectful, if not for another point, but I'll get to it after the replay. Faker, of course, does his best Phoenix impression here. He sees enemies and he says, I'm going to have a Shurima turret, a Gargoyle, and a Dream. And his dream, you know what? His dream was fulfilled. By the end, the team is able to collapse through here. The rest of this play is whatever, so I want to focus on, remember Griffin have lots of teleports, so if you don't actually kill the Baron before the teleports come in, suddenly it gets really confusing trying to finish this Baron and peel correctly and target select. Usually, if multiple people are dead and Olaf is flashed, this Baron is free. Azir is 3 items, but SKT respect the teleports and say, this is our game to lose. We have the scaling advantage. Let's not take this risk now.
Well, they didn't. Baron is still there, as you can see, 28 minutes into this game. Infernal Drake is going to be up in 1 minute's time. We'll see whether they wait to try and get an earlier Elder Drake. I know this is something that you talk about a lot, LS, on the broadcast, is timing your Drakes to make sure you get either an extra one if you want to, extend that one out, or get the Elder Drake as soon as possible. I feel like SKT probably want to fight over an Elder as fast as they can.
Yeah, and so do they wait until the 30-minute mark to consume the Infernal Dragon? Or do they just eat it right away and allow something else to end up spawning?
Maybe get another one.
Maybe get another one.
I would say, with how this game was supposed to go, the idea of delaying has some merit. I don't think Griffin can fight for 2 objectives, and I think you get whichever one you really want. So go for bonus. Here we go.
There's the flash. Big taunt coming out from Marta to start this one off. Lahans throws the ultimate back towards Teddy, but it doesn't interrupt the culling. It's not the cuddling anymore. Chovy trying to stand the back line, but he just does no damage. Sword is too late to the fight, and as he jumps in, he just gets taunted. Faker sweeps the floor, and Griffin members die. The Ragnarok's not going to be enough. Viper can't run fast enough, and Griffin I think you're done this time around. Khan's found Tarzan, and he's just playing with his food.
Cleans him up. That's another kill to SKT. Another wipe. They're pushing through mid lane. They want to go home early.
Yeah, exactly. We've got 4 minions here. SKT, they can tank up turrets if they want to. Maybe not Marta, as Viper still does some damage. But look at these turrets melt. The next will follow, and SK Telecom will move to match point in the final of LCK Spring 2019.
And SK Telecom with an extremely decisive victory, saying that they want to take it all the way as they just charge right down the Nexus. Viper not able to do anything, and Tarzan, he was just getting danced on by Khan. And as Atlas just said, they play the best standard League of Legends. No smoke and mirrors necessary for this team.
In Korea, KT Rolster 2017 was the super team, and that was very quickly an ironic title, one used to jeer about KT and poke fun at them. This SKT lineup was dubbed the Dream Team, and when they lost games in Kesper Cup, people used that against them. They lost to Damwon in 2 out of 3 series, and yet, here we are, and suddenly the Dream Team has finally ascended, or at least is 1 step away, 3 match points away from ascending. Griffin have been able to reverse sweep before, but on this night, with how game 1 and 2 was gone, if you're a betting man and bet on it, be ready to lose the money.
Yep, and now side selection will go over to Griffin, so theoretically they should have a little bit more of an opportunity to get themselves back into this one, but SKT so far have won on both sides of the rift. What's the answer?
One of the things I was worried about is what is Griffin's mental fortitude down 0-2. Maybe they're going to pull out Sonic, Papa.
Well, maybe that's the last answer, but guys, we do have a short break. Griffin are going to have to pull something out of a hat. So many Magic references so far here today, but we know, all of us, want 5 games. If we can get to it, we'll do our very best, but you guys have to believe in Griffin to try and pull this one back. Send them your energy. Oh, it's going to be rough. We'll see whether they can do it after the break.